Hey, friends, happy Monday. If you're listening to this on the day it's released, any other day, happy whatever day it is. We have got an interesting episode this week, I think. We talk a lot about change, that we're going through a period of change, that we're going through just collectively. This is a time of things are changing because of geopolitical forces, things are changing economically. There's a lot of change happening around us. And so I want to talk about where we see that astrologically, and then a couple of ways that we can kind of make change a little bit easier to handle for those of us where change is not as easy. So, one of the things we're going to talk about is Uranus, our planet of change, our planet that's known as being kind of a disruptive force, has moved signs. It went from being in Taurus, now it's in Gemini last week. And so, I want to talk about where that shows up in your chart. We'll talk a little bit about some ways to kind of handle change, especially if it's difficult for you. And then something really practical that I'm offering, we'll talk about at the very end of this. So, we are going to be talking about the houses of the chart. If you're not super familiar with this, when you look at your birth chart, it has 12 pie pieces, and each one of those is called a house. And those houses are associated with different areas of our lives, different themes of our lives. And each one of those houses is going to have an astrology sign in it. And so that theme of your life is flavored by that astrology sign. Some of your houses have planets or other placements in them. So the sun isn't a planet, it's a placement. Those are all going to be in various houses, and it's normal to have ones that are empty. When you have one that's empty, it just has more of a pure form of whatever that astrology sign is in that house. And that theme is not necessarily conditioned by a specific planet in your chart. So Uranus has moved into Gemini. So we're going to start with Gemini. This is based on your rising sign. If this is all new to you and you don't know what a rising sign is, you haven't seen your birth chart, if you go to mosttrueyou.com/guide, Guide, I have a free ebook on there that you can download that actually walks you through how to find your birth chart. And then once you find your birth chart, how do you find your sun, your moon, and your rising sign? Your rising sign is really important. It's based on the time of day that you were born. We actually go through all 12 zodiac signs in a 24-hour period for the rising sign. So if you're born on any given day and someone else is born on that day, same as you, same year, their rising sign is most likely different than yours. Okay, we're going to be looking at Gemini, where it falls within your chart, because this is the theme of life that's going to be more impacted by the planet Uranus over the coming 8 years. Uranus is in Gemini until May of 2033. So this is a really long transit. It's one that impacts us all collectively. Uranus and Gemini has been associated with some pretty significant conflicts. And again, those types of conflicts bring change to the world around us. So it may not be that it's shaking up something specific in your life, but even on a communal basis, we're all going to feel this. Gemini is an air sign. It's associated with the way that we think. It's the sign of the twins. It's this energy of, I can tell you a story about something that happened to me and tell you all about how terrible the other person was. But a true Gemini energy is going to go, okay, but I want to hear the other side of that story, because there's always a second side to the story. That's very Gemini energy. Gemini is a very communicative sign or energy. It's a very playful sign or energy. These are just some really kind of basic types of ways to think about Gemini. It's curious. It's a very curious energy. So Uranus is this kind of trickster, mischievous, disruptive energy, and disruption isn't always bad, right? Disruption can also be a good thing, but it is a little bit of a disruptive energy that comes into our lives. We all have it somewhere in our birth charts. It's always present regardless of what sign it's in. And it's in the curious sign of Gemini. It's in a sign that can also be a little bit of a trickster. So I see this as kind of, we've got two jesters playing together in a sense. That's one way that you can look at this. So if you are Gemini rising, if your rising sign is in Gemini, then Uranus is in your first house over the next years. And this is your house of self, it's your house of personality, it's the house of appearance. This is very much, when we are born as babies, the only thing we are aware of is I exist, I am hungry, I am tired, my diaper is dirty, I am uncomfortable. It's very I, me centered, the first house. It's all about how I as a human exist. So your sense of self, your sense of identity may go through some pretty big shifts over the coming 8 years. If you're Taurus rising, Taurus is in your first house, then Gemini's in your second house. Gemini is all about money, material goods, wealth, assets, the talents that we bring to the work that we do. The second house is one of 3 houses that have to do with work, job, and career. So this is the actual skill set that we make money with. So if you're Taurus rising, then you could be experiencing change over the next 8 years in the area of what skills you use for work, how you make money, what you do with your money, what money you actually have. All of those things could be impacted by Uranus and Gemini in your second house. If you have Aries in your first house, then you have Gemini in your third house. Our third house has to do with sibling relationships, with communication, with some of our daily rituals, as well as some with extended family. So these are areas that could be impacted by Uranus being in Gemini for you. And then fourth house, and this would be Pisces rising, is parents, caregivers, your foundation, your sense of home. Real estate is in the fourth house. These are all going to be areas that could, again, be impacted by change over the coming years. And then if you have Aquarius rising, so Aquarius in your first house, then we're now moving to the fifth house for Uranus being in Gemini. This is all about pleasure, romance, creativity, children, procreation. Those are all elements of the fifth house. I was talking with somebody about how this energy was showing up for them, and they were looking at making a career shift from something that's really only working with adults to now working also with kids. And that's very fifth house energy, and that's fifth house change, right? There's that sense of shift from, no, they're not necessarily going and having their own kids. It's not that kind of a change, but they're bringing more children into their life through the work that they're going to be doing. That's fifth house, and that's Uranus. And that's Uranus energy, kind of that planet of change. Capricorn rising, you're going to have Gemini and Uranus in your sixth house. It's going to be traveling through your sixth house for 8 years. This is a slow moving planet. This is our second house of work, job. It has to do with our job, and then career is our 10th house. This is kind of how we show up day to day, both at work and for our own health. That is very sixth house. Sixth house also has to do with pets. So those are areas that you could see some changes if you've been thinking about changes with your job, thinking about changes with your day-to-day activities, especially related to job and health. This is a period to be welcoming those changes. And then Sagittarius rising, now we're going to the 7th house. This is our house of committed partnerships. So you are going to have the planet of change going through your house of committed partnerships. And this is one where if you are in a committed partnership that is not working for you, Uranus is probably going to shake that up at some point. It is going to challenge you on why you are in it. And really, any of these themes, that's true. I think that one's standing out for me because I have had Uranus go through my 7th house, and it was at the end of that I ended up getting divorced. So all of these, as we talk about the themes, things that don't work for us are getting shaken away. Things that are working for us, we may be having other things happening where it's change, but it's not a loss necessarily. So I don't want to say that to scare you. That was honestly led to some of the best things happening in my life. So it's not even like a terrible thing. It needed to happen. But that is something that happened when I had Uranus going through the 7th house. So that was Sagittarius rising. It's going to be going through your house of committed partnerships, one-on-ones. This could be really close friends. This can be romantic partnerships. This can be business partnerships. But It's primarily committed romantic partnerships is 1-to-1, or the 7th house. So if you have Scorpio in the first house, then Uranus is going through your 8th house. I just had this with Uranus and Taurus. It was going through my 8th house. So now if you're Scorpio rising, you have Uranus going through your 8th house. 8th house has to do with our mental health, with other people's resources, with taxes, with debts, and then also with death. And don't hear that as somebody's going to die. Think about inheritance, right? That's another death plus other people's resources equals inheritance. So I don't want you to be freaking out because you have Uranus going through the 8th house. This is for you going to be a time where I really want you to pay attention to things like your debt, paying attention to things like your taxes. If you're not handling those well, this is going to be a time that Uranus could come in and play some jokes on you that you might not really appreciate. Libra rising, you have Uranus going through your 9th house for the next 8 years. So this is long distance travel. This is education. Philosophy is the 9th house. This is religion is the 9th house. Publishing, when we look at timing for things, if we're talking about publishing a book, for example, we're looking at what's going on in our 9th houses. All of these have to do with 9th house. So this is a very kind of very heady change where it's going to be really, I think, messing with the way that we think about the world is going to get shaken up by Uranus in our 9th house. And then those who are Virgo rising are going to have Uranus going through their 10th house, which is our house of career, our house of legacy, our house of our public image. This is the highest point in our birth chart where if you have something that is not working well for you with your career, this is going to get shifted. This is going to get changed. We'll talk again about how to manage change in a few minutes, but that is an area where you're going to want to really focus on what works for you and what doesn't. And if it doesn't, let Uranus help you let those things go. If you have Leo rising, then Uranus is going to be going through your 11th house, which is community. This is your house of friendships. This is your house of actually, again, when we're looking at timing things, we look at this house to go, where is the money that we make from the work that we do from our career? Chaney talks about this being your house of good fortune. So there is something with money in your 11th house, but it's not as direct as your 2nd house. So for you, things like friendships, community, potentially the money that you make is all going to be impacted by Uranus going through your 10th house or your 11th house, I'm sorry. And then finally, our Cancer rising folks, you have Uranus going through your 12th house. Our 12th house is our house of culminations. If we've gone through all the different themes in life, we get finally to the 12th house. This is spirituality. This is the kind of ethereal, hidden realms of life, some of the spaces that we don't always see. I also think that the 12th house has a lot to do with our mental health. So for you, I think that some of these changes are going to be less tangible and more spiritual if you have Cancer rising because it's going through your house. The 12th house can have kind of sorrow and loss associated with it, but a lot of that is the wrapping up of cycles. So for you, anything that has, in your life that's coming to a completion of some sort is going to get this final little shakeup from Uranus. And again, the things that aren't working for us are going to get shaken away. That is something that the universe, I think, uses Uranus to kind of help bring about the change that we are slow to allow happen in our lives. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about what we do when things are changing and we don't like it. We are afraid of it. What do we do when it's changed that we maybe don't welcome? And there's a lot of different ways that we can handle this, but there's a couple things that help us in the moment. And then there's a couple things that I can point you to that will help you long term. So one, anything that we're doing, I'm always going to go back to acknowledging. We have to acknowledge what's going on. So this could look like if there's something going on at work and people are announcing layoffs and you are stressing out because your name wasn't on the list. Other people who you know and love were. You're worried that you could be next. Those kind of changes, those are hard changes. I want you to pause and put one hand on your heart and on your belly in that moment. And I want you to take some cleansing breaths. And I want you, as you're taking those cleansing breaths, to let yourself know this is hard. Change is hard. None of us like change because, for the most part, when things change and we don't initiate that change, there's usually fear associated with that. And often there's a feeling of threat associated with that. So, coming back into our bodies in the moment when we're feeling that stress is super, super important. That is like the number one thing to do. Then it's looking at, where are you now? Maybe you're the person who was impacted by the layoff. Maybe it was one of your work friends, but it wasn't you. Whatever that is, acknowledge all the feelings associated with that. You can journal those, you can talk through those, you can draw, paint, dance, whatever you need to. Process those feelings. But trying to move on as if you're not feeling the way that you are is not going to work. And this is true for any kind of change. I just use that because we talk a lot about work in this podcast. So anything that's going on, I want you to process it. I love using journaling, and oracle cards as a way to process change. I think that the oracle cards are really helpful because we can ask questions like, we can even talk to our cards. This thing in my life is changing. It is really hard. What is something that I need to know about this change that I might not know? And pull a card for that and then journal through or talk through or paint through what comes up from it. And then you can ask another question. What will help me process through this change? And again, process through that. I say journal, but you can use anything. You can type it out. You can talk it out. Anything that helps you process, do that. So, what is something I need to know about this change that I might not already know? What will help me process through this change? Those are two questions to start with. What is it about my future that I can call in because of this change? Change makes room for new things to come into our lives. So asking about that, because sometimes kind of having an idea of what kind of good is coming to us can help with some of the challenges that are there. Those are really good questions to ask. Now, some longer term things that can really help you. One, of course, therapy. I think therapy is fantastic. Therapists are really good at helping folks come up with new ways of kind of handling the stressors of life. I think EFT tapping is a fantastic tool to have for yourself for processing through emotions. There are lots of EFT practitioners out there that can help you process through whatever change is going on in your life, and then also give you the tools that you need to practice EFT on your own. There's also, you can do research EFT on YouTube. You can look at Insight Timer and look up EFT tapping. All of these are different things that you can use. I think that therapy and EFT are both really great for that. And then, of course, just any kind of movement. We need movement. I know I need significantly more movement than I. Those are all ways to help us. Even just for me, I've really been trying to do more walking. So I'm trying at least, a few times a week. Whenever I drop off my kids, I'll go for a walk afterwards when I take them to school. And just that back and forth while I think through things is really helpful. That, for whatever reason, the left, right movement helps our brains process things. Okay. So change is always present in our lives. It's not something that we get away from. It's not something that we need to fear. It's something that can be really challenging. And I don't want to pretend like it's not, but it's also something that we can use for our own growth. And that's why I share this with you, because I hope that knowing what kind of change is coming your way is going to be helpful. For me, the last 10 years, Uranus finished up in my 7th house. So that was one-to-one partnerships. I did get a divorce and it needed to happen. Then it went through my house. So again, death, debt, taxes, other people's resources, mental health. That's what the last 7 to 8 years have been for me. And there have been challenges for me, especially related to debt. That has been a big one. And then there's been some challenges related to taxes. But I got through them. Like, none of that was life stopping. And I think that's something we got to remember with change is it can be life changing, it can be life altering. It's not life stopping for the most part. I don't want to pretend like it's not, but typically change is coming in other forms for us. And it's not all bad. Even if it's hard, a lot of times it leads to really good things for us. And then now I have it going into my ninth house. So this will be interesting to see what happens there. Okay. So I want to tell you about something that I am doing to help you prepare for change in the realm of your career, specifically in the realm of work. So especially if you have Uranus going through your second, sixth, or 10th house, but honestly, anybody, because just because Uranus isn't going through one of those houses doesn't mean you're not going to face a change in your career over the next 8 years. Pretty much all of us will have some form of change over the next 8 years in our career or job. And I want you to be ready for that. So I have created what I call the Career Ready Challenge. And this is 4 weeks. It is action packed. And we are going to be spending week 1 getting your resume ready. You could easily spend $300 to $700 to pay a resume writer to do your resume, and they'll do a great job and you'll feel good about it. However, you don't need a resume writer to have a decent or a good resume, one that's going to very clearly communicate on paper who you are, what your talents are, what you bring. So, week 1 is getting your resume ready. Week 2, we're going to spend getting your application strategy ready. And this is really important because if you go on LinkedIn right now, you are going to see person after person after person talking about how they have submitted hundreds of applications and not had a single interview. And this is a reality for a lot of people. There's a lot of reasons for this, but simply putting your resume into a company's career site is often not enough to get you to an interview. It's not always the case. There are times when that happens, but there are other ways that you can get your resume and then yourself in front of the people who are doing the interviews and the hiring. So we're going to be talking about your application strategy. Week 3, once you get an interview, I want you to be ready for the interview. So we are going to be talking about interview strategies. We're going to get your interview skills ready. We're going to talk about the questions you need to know, the ways that you can word things. If you had a difficult termination at your last job, it's really important that you talk about that well. And so we're going to be talking about things like that in week 3. And then week 4, we are going to be getting your negotiation strategy ready because you are going to get an offer. At some point, you're going to come upon a career or a job offer. And I want you to be ready for that. I want you to know only how to negotiate for the salary you want, but how to ask about things like benefits and time off and what the culture is like and anything else that's going to impact your well-being and that can be brought into the negotiation strategy part of it. So we're going to get your resume ready, your application strategy, your interview strategy, and your negotiation skills ready in 4 weeks. This is action-packed. This is not a class. This is a challenge. This is for people who are ready to spend some time getting themselves ready, not necessarily because you want to make a change. This is for the person, one, who knows that they're ready to make a career change. That's an obvious one. If you know you are ready to make a career change, then the Career Ready Challenge is going to be a really good way for you to get ready to do that. It is also for the person who does not know that they want to make a change yet, but doesn't want to be caught off guard. If there's a layoff, if there's a leadership change, if something goes south and they decide, nope, I really need to look for something new, I don't want you to be wondering what to do next. I want you to be ready to go. That is what this challenge is for. It is so that when the time comes, when you are ready to make a change, when a change comes to you, you already have what you need to start on whatever it looks like to take that next step. there's so many times where I talk to women who are like, I don't love my job, but I don't want to make a change because I don't even know where I'd start with. That is what we're doing is we're going super practical in a short burst of time so that you aren't overthinking it, so that you just know, okay, when I'm ready, I'm good. I'm not going to have to spend months trying to figure out how to put this resume together. What do I even put on my resume? How do I write a dang objective on my resume? All that we're going to talk about. For those who do this with me, I'm going to do a resume review. So if you do your resume during that first week or even the second week, you're going to have an opportunity to send it to me and I'll take a review of that. I'll take a look at it. And for those who sign up ahead of time, I really want you to be cognizant of how your sun, moon, and rising play into this. And so, everybody who signs up, I am going to send you a recording of me reading your sun, moon, and rising signs. So, I'm going to take a look at your chart for you and I'm going to talk about where your sun, moon, and rising signs are. And then I'm going to send you that recording. So, those are both the resume review and the recording are going to be in there. You'll get resume templates. I mean, this is like ultra practical. So, let's talk about the cost really quick and where you sign up for this. I do see this being something that we do probably a few times a year, and it will probably cost $297. I think that that's a really reasonable price for this, especially given that just getting your resume written is 3 to 700 bucks. That's what you would drop for a resume writer. You are actually learning how to do it yourself, along with getting the application strategy, the interview skills, the negotiation skills. So it's going to be $297 for this first round. I'm going to do $100 off. So if you use the code career, all caps, career 100, CAREER 100, you'll get $100 off on that. I won't be doing that deep of a discount going forward. So if this is something that you're thinking about, one, 297 is still, I think, doable for many of us, especially as an investment in making sure that you're ready to go if you need to make a change and having those skills for negotiation. But two, the 197 with that $100 off, this is, I think, something that could really make or break for you in terms of feeling like you can handle it if you need to make a change. I can't guarantee that companies are going to pick up your resume from the application process. I can't guarantee that you're going to get a job in a certain amount of time, but what I can tell you is you are going to feel confident. You're not going to be stuck overthinking. You're not going to be stuck wondering how you even get going. You're going to know what to do. You're going to know how to not just rely on submitting your resume to a company's career site. You're going to have other options besides that. So this is something that I think could really make that whole process significantly easier for you. So if you want to sign up, it's careerreadychallenge.com. Again, careerreadychallenge.com. And that code is career100 to get $100 off. So it's going to start May 17th as a Sunday. I'm going to send you a video on the 17th. And in that video, we're going to be talking all about resumes. That's week one. On Monday, no, yeah, on Monday the 18th, I was like, do I have my dates right? On Monday the 18th, we're going to meet live and we're going to talk through all of your questions. And then you're going to have the week to put together your resume and send it to me for review. So that's how each week is going to go. So then the following week, I will send out your video Sunday morning for your application strategy. And then Monday night, we will meet and you can ask me questions. I have been in HR for over a decade. I currently handle all of our recruiting, all of our talent acquisition. So these are things that I deal with on a day-to-day basis on the employer side of things. So questions that you have about applications, about interviews, about negotiation. How do you ask for more without turning off the employer? Those are all things that we're going to talk about. What questions do you ask during the interview process versus at the end when you're in negotiation? Those are things we're going to talk about. How do you talk about money when you live in a state or the company doesn't post the salary range on their job post? You know, a lot of states require that, but not every state does, and not every company does it. Even it's been required for several years now in California, and there's still companies that don't put it on their job post. So how do you handle things like that? Those are all things that we will talk about on those live calls on Monday nights. So it's going to be Sunday morning video, action, something for you to do, something for you to think about. And then Monday night, we're going to do a call together. So again, if you want to sign up for that, it's careerreadychallenge.com. And then career 100 is the code that you use for $100 off. Okay, friends, I hope that this is helpful for you. I really want us to feel like we can be empowered as we go through change, that it's something that can work to our advantage, even if it's hard. And as we kind of go through change communally, that we can be some of the folks that others are looking to go, okay, how are you managing the stress of this? How are you managing the unknown of this? And we start talking about the tools that we have used to help our own selves through change. If you have any questions, you can always email me. And I am sending you so much love this week. Happy Monday again, or whatever day it is that you're listening to this.